Hi, and welcome to this episode of Empowered Entrepreneur. My guest today is Nikki Gianni. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Hi, Ari.
Nikki is the leadership architect. Leadership coach Nikki Gianni was born and raised in Queens, New York. She has lived all over the country and currently living in Southern California with her 19-year-old son. Nikki spent 25 years in the Department of Defense in acquisition as an active duty member and a civil servant. That's a lot of career, Nikki.
A lot of time, right? It went by really fast though. But yeah, this is move 24 that I've done. And I've lived in 10 states, 3 of them twice. So yeah, I've been around the block a bit. I was active duty for 10 years, and then I was married to an active duty Army member. I was for 10 years. So I followed him around for 10 years. And then we went our separate ways, and I went Utah for my health, right? Because of I have an autoimmune disease. And but they kind of New Yorkers and Utahns don't really mesh that good. So when it was when after the divorce and everything, I said to my son, okay, kiddo, you've lived in 6 states. You get to pick now. Where do you want to go? And he said, San Diego. I said, okay, well, how about I apply for everything in Southern California? And he said, okay. And I got a job at Port Hueneme with the Navy, which is about an hour north of LA. But after about 2 years, I decided to call it quits and do my own thing. So here I am.
And that brings us to our topic for today. So share with the audience, what is your hidden key to productivity?
It's a very simple thing, Vanessa. It's trust. Trust is the key. Because let's just think about it, right? Like, so if you are in your office, you're working, and you don't trust your boss, how much are you going to give that person, right? Like, how hard are you going to work for that person? As opposed to if you did trust them and you knew that they were going to be always honest with you and they were going to take care of you and give you top cover, you'd work a lot harder for that person, right? So, gaining trust and confidence from your employees, as well as your peers and your leaders, is essential when you're a leader. Essential. I've been in organizations where I did not trust my superior versus when I did, and it was a completely different game. Now, you know, when you have work ethic and values and whatnot, you're going to do your best anyways. But it definitely makes a big difference when you can trust the person. So how you gain that trust isn't that hard either. Okay. Sounds like, oh, you have to have years of time with people. No, you don't need to do that. All you need to do, for the most part, is have empathy. Empathy goes miles and miles and miles. It's amazing. I've been stationed at 8 different bases, okay, in my Air Force and Department of Defense career. And so I was always the new guy. Every 2 to 3 years, I'd show up, and then the last 15 years, I was a senior leader. So then they're like, oh, who is this woman? You know, she's a crazy New Yorker, obnoxious woman. Oh, you know, and maybe I am all those things, right? But I'm an honest person, and I care about the mission. I care about people. I love people, and it's fun for me to be a leader. A lot of people don't like it. They're like, oh, I don't want to rate people. Blah, blah. I think it's a great time because you can help folks, right, and make the mission that much better. So yeah, so I had to learn how to get into an organization and get them to trust me, so that way we can get things done, right? Because if they don't, it's not going to work. Yeah, I would definitely, when I walked in, I said, hey, this is your show, guys. I'm here to help you, and you need to tell me how you do business. I'm not going to tell you how to do your business, right? Now, if I think that there's something that we can improve, then we'll talk about it, right? But and of course, the leader always has the last say. But when you keep people included with with your decision making, it makes a world of difference. I get to know everybody that I work with, that works for me, that I work for. I would sit down with them, have an in brief. Tell me about your family. Tell me about anything that you feel comfortable telling me about. It was very effective. And I was very successful in every leadership position that I went into, mainly because they supported me and because I supported them. So yeah, that's the big one. That's really the big one.
That's so interesting that you bring up trust, because I recently brought on an intern to help me with my business. And immediately I've put my trust into her, and I haven't been let down. And it's a really good feeling to finally be able to feel like I'm working with someone who is competent and proactive.
Right. Well, you said something very interesting though, Vanessa. You said, I put my trust in her.
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes both ways, right? They need to trust you, but you need to trust them too. Because if you don't, then they're going to be like, oh, well, she doesn't trust me. So why should I try hard? If she doesn't trust me, then, why should I give her all my great ideas? I'll just keep them to myself, because, oh, she's just going to take it credit for it or whatever, and if you do, that, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just using that as an example, of course, but yeah. So you trusting her made her all that more excited to work for you and to do things for you. Right. It's an amazing synergy that happens with that trust.
Yes. And it was a simple thing of like, she's learning, I'm not paying her. She's getting credit from actually San Diego State.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool program that I found.
Mm-hmm.
She's learning. She's still in school, and her degree is actually going to be in entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So I get to help her, teach her, and I'm not looking for perfection the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what holds back a lot of entrepreneurs in progressing, that they feel that they need to be perfect when they just need to do it the first time and learn.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, it is so scary to make a leap, right, into entrepreneurship. A lot of times I think back and I'm like, why did I do that? I should have just stayed where I was. I had a nice income, now I'm like having to worry about things. But it's definitely exciting, and you get to, but you have to trust yourself big time when you're an entrepreneur, right? And sometimes you don't, but you got to fake it till you make it, I guess, right?
Yes, and be quick about knowing when to pivot, when to tweak, when to keep pushing through.
Right. Yeah. So my mom would say to me a lot, well, Nick, you change your mind so much, you change direction all the time. And I'm like, but Mom, why would I stick with something that isn't good for me when I know it? Right. Just to stick with it, just because that's like the old school way of thinking, right? Just stick with it. Even though you hate it, you can still do it, like, okay, I'll just be miserable. Thank you. So, um, but yeah, so to your point, you got to know when to say when. Say, that's not good for me. I need to go a different direction for sure.
So how long have you been the leadership architect?
Not very long, only about 6 months. It's been an interesting experience, for sure. And I'm finally starting to get going with, figuring out how to get my word out by doing these podcasts and, getting my website really nice and, figuring out how to use social media. All these things are really like, okay, so I was with the government for 25 years. I had this giant bureaucracy that I hated. Okay. I hated it. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much bureaucracy. But now I'm like, damn, that was pretty handy, that bureaucracy, because they did a lot of work for me. So it's just like, oh man, now I got to do everything myself. Wait a minute, I forgot about that. I forgot about this. So yeah, I feel like a toddler right now, right? Because I'm like learning so much, like learning to walk, learning to talk all over again. So it's been very interesting. I'm looking forward to just doing the regular work, and not having to do all this prep work to get to that point. But yeah, it's been really interesting.
Yeah, it is a lot of prep work, and you feel like you're always working.
Yes. Yes, I do. I'm like, what happened to like the 5 hours a day thing, that I've been hearing about? Because I haven't gotten that yet.
Right? Yes, I completely agree that it is definitely a journey to
Yes,
become an
for sure.
entrepreneur, and you'll get to that point eventually, but you have to put in the work.
Right.
And it is work.
It is. But you know what? I feel like it's like, so when I was working in my last job, I think I did 9 weeks of overtime in 1 year. Okay. And a week is 40 hours, right? I mean, that's a lot of overtime. Now it's for the mission, right? For the warfighter, killing bad guys, dig it, right? That's why I stayed around for so long. But it's not mine, right? But this is mine. So I don't mind doing a lot of overtime for it because it's mine, So yeah, it's a very different perspective on things for sure.
So how do you keep pushing forward with your productivity?
Well, I kind of don't have a choice, right? Like, cause I'm like, okay, well, I suppose you always have choices, right? But it's either keep pushing, keep trying, or go work for somebody else. And I did that for my whole adult life. I'm really not interested in doing that anymore. I want to be able to make my own decisions. And of course, the client is who I work for, right? But I get to drive the train as far as the way the business is going to go. Because a lot of times in previous positions, I said we shouldn't do it that way. We should do it this way, and I got vetoed because the person higher than me didn't agree, or they did agree, but they were too afraid to do it, which is what usually happened. But yeah, so I'm not afraid to make decisions, and I'm not afraid to keep going. So yeah, I really just don't want to have to work for somebody again. So that keeps me going.
Right. And you mentioned that you still work for the client, but as part of being your own business, you can choose which clients you want to work with.
Totally. Yes. As opposed to having a customer that you can't stand, that isn't cooperative and blah, blah, blah. If you don't have a client that isn't, if I don't have a client that's not coachable, we can break up,
Right.
what, we're going to go our separate ways because, if this isn't working out, and I don't have any qualms about doing that. And it's better for the person too. I don't want just to waste their money. Because this isn't cheap, it's a lot of, it's a lot of, extra work that you'd have to do. And so, yeah, I don't want them to stick around for nothing.
That's awesome. Do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
Well, if you want to hear more about my philosophy on trust and how it builds productivity, I'm just about to record a pop-up podcast. It's a 3-part series that you can listen to for free. It's normally $9.97. I give it to you for free, and you don't have to do anything. I give you a workbook. You just listen, and I have a live Q&A, and you can find that on keytoproductivity.com, or you can go to my website, nikkigianni.com, nikkigianni.com.
Awesome. And all that information will also be in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Vanessa.
You're welcome.